Great. Good evening. The City of Boston Zoning Board of Appeal hearing for March 20, 2025 is now in session. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the applicable provisions of the open meeting law, including the updated provisions enacted by the legislature last year. The new law allows the board to continue its practice of holding virtual hearings until March 2025. This hearing of the board is being held remotely via the Zoom webinar event platform. This hearing is also being recorded. In order to ensure this hearing of the board is open to the public, members of the public may access this hearing through telephone and video conferencing. The information for connecting to this hearing is listed on today's hearing agenda, which is posted on the public notices page of the city's website, boston.gov. Members of the public will enter the virtual hearing as attendees, which means you will not see yourself on the screen and you will be muted throughout unless administratively unmuted when asked to comment. Board members, applicants, and their attorneys or representatives will participate in the hearing as panelists, and they will appear alongside the presentation materials when speaking. Panelists are strongly encouraged to keep video on while presenting to the board. As with our in-person meetings, comments and support will be followed by comments and opposition. The order of comments is as follows: elected officials, representatives of elected officials, and members of the public. The chair may limit the number of people called upon to offer comment and the time for commenting as time constraints require. For that reason, the board prefers to hear from members of the public who are most impacted by a project, that is, those individuals who live closest to the project. In the interest of time and to ensure that you have enough time to do so, please raise your hand as soon as Mr. Stembridge reads the address into the record. Do not raise your hand before the relevant address is called, or the meeting host will not know to call on you at the appropriate time. Mr. Stembridge.
Good evening, Madam Chair, present.
Good evening. Ms. Wewell.
Good evening, Madam Chair, present.
Good evening. The floor is yours, Mr. Stembridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, with the hearing scheduled for 5 p.m. First, we have case BOA 1684879.
Mr. Stembridge, do you just want to ask quickly about the withdrawals or deferrals?
That would be a good idea. Thank you for the bond, Madam Chair. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to withdraw or withdraw their hearing or their or their have it deferred?
I see no raised hands at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. So with that, go back to case BOA 1684879. The address is 22B 22 Beacon Street. If the applicant and or their representative are present, would they please explain to the board?
All right, if you're on for that case, you should be able to unmute yourself. So, I sent a request to unmute Mr. Brent as well. Do not see any raised hands at the moment for that address.
Okay, let's keep moving forward.
Next, we'll go to case BOA 1686316 with the address of 853 to 855 East 5th Street. If the applicant and or their representative are present, would they please explain the case to the board?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Just to correct the record, it's East 1st Street, 853, 855 East 1st Street in South Boston. My name is Attorney Fran Adams. I represent the owners of the property, Ashley Whitehead and Brent Herbert. As you can see from the plans, my clients own this property, which is on the corner of East 1st Street and Arcadia Street. My clients have applied to have an off-street parking in the rear of the property via a curb cut from Arcadia Street. The property calls for two full-size spaces. As you can see, there's going to be permeable pavers, planting strips around the property to add additional green space. We completed the community process. As the board may know, off-street parking or any parking in South Boston is a serious neighborhood concern. We had a great abutter process. We had not aware of any opposition. For clarity purposes, Arcadia Street is a side street. There is no parking allowed on Arcadia Street on this side of the street, so there's only parking on the opposite side of the street. So this curb cut is not taking any spaces off the street. We're not affecting any on-street parking. I would like to let the board also know that there is almost all of the properties on this side of Acadia Street, 5, 7, and the corner property all have similar curb cuts. Some are smaller, some are pre-existing, but there are numerous curb cuts on this side of the property. We are aware of the planning department's recommendation. I would like to address some of the concerns, some of the inaccuracies in the planning department's recommendation. First, there is no parking freeze as it applies to this particular property. This property is in a residential zone. There's no approval needed by the Air Pollution Control Commission, which is required for new residential parking in a residential zone with locations outside of South Boston. So that is not applicable in this particular case. Second, as far as the planning recommendations suggest that there's no parking driveways on East First Street, and we don't disagree with that, but the parking in this particular case is going to be accessed on Arcadia Street, which is a side street, where there are also many similar properties on this street that have existing curb cuts and have new curb cuts. And again, there's no parking on this side of Acadia Street. So that's a little bit inconsistent. As far as the open space violation, we did receive one violation in the application. It's for usable open space, but as the board can see, this is an existing 3-family. There are decks for all 3 levels. This space that is being utilized here is just a backyard now. It's not any particular beautiful space that's being converted. The space is going to continue to remain open. There'll be permeable pavers, and as you can see, there'll be planting strips and landscaping all around the property. The code requires 600 square feet of open space. The property will still have the 2 decks above, which is 400 square feet. So this is kind of just a reduction in the open space, not necessarily a loss. With respect to the comment about maneuverability issues that could create a hazard, I'd like the board to know that this application has already been approved by the Public Improvement Commission. Public Improvement Commission, as this board knows, has already done a traffic study, and they have approved the application. So if there were any particular hazards or maneuverability issues, I don't think that the PIC would have approved this application, just for clarity purposes. And also, the application, we were not cited for maneuverability by ISD, so I don't particularly agree with the planning recommendation that this has a maneuverability issue or has any kind of traffic or pedestrian issues. As I said, there's an identical property to this at the top of the street on the same corner, which is on Acadia and East 2nd Street. 832 has the same exact configuration. It's a corner lot, and it has a curb cut and parking. It's just at the top of Acadia and 2nd versus Acadia and 1st. With respect to the permission from Parks Department, as this board knows, this property is located within 100 feet of a park. So we have no issue at all with a proviso if this board was to support the application that we need to go and seek Parks approval as well. M Street Park is located to the left, and there's a dog park on the other side of East First Street. For all those reasons, as I said, the homeowners are going to be moving in the property. They just had a child. The parking would be beneficial. I believe for all the reasons that I just stated, that we would respectfully ask the board to approve the application, reasonable use of the property with a proviso, if required, to seek Parks Department approval. Thank you.
Mr. Adams, quick question. So just to confirm, it looks like there's already an existing curb cut there. Is that correct? So you would
No,
not
there's
be-
not an existing curb cut there. This is just it's across this. So on Acadia Street itself, there's at least 5 existing curb cuts. There is not in this location.
Okay, so you'd be creating a curb cut there.
Yes, and PIC has already approved that application.
Got it. All right, thank you. Questions from the board? Hearing none, can I have public testimony?
Madam Chair and board members, Siggy Johnson with the Office of Neighborhood Services. This petitioner completed the community process. We hosted an abutters meeting on January 23rd, at which no opposition was raised, and the City Point Neighborhood Association is in non-opposition to this proposal. With that background, we defer to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have no raised hands at the moment.
Okay.
Madam Chair and members of the board, my name is Sydney. I'm from Councilor Flynn's office. Councilor Flynn would like to go on record in support based on a good community process and feedback from the neighbors. He respectfully requests the proponent continue to work closely with the community on any quality of life issues during the construction phase. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm going to put forward a motion of denial to be consistent with the planning department's recommendation. I also agree with Mr. D'Amico's analysis about the maneuverability. It just doesn't seem to work with the width of the driveway as well as having double wide parking.
Mr. Stenbridge? Are you in?
No. I'm sorry. Second, no.
Madam, can I?
I'm sorry, what did you? Sorry, we're voting now? Sorry, Mr. Stenbridge, what did you vote?
I voted no.
Okay,
To deny.
You're voting to deny.
you're voting against the motion, right? Okay, so,
Wait. Hold on.
sorry, I'm just trying to be clear.
No.
You're voting like against the motion of denial, correct?
I'm voting
Okay.
against the no.
And so am I, so the motion does not carry. I also am a no. Is there another motion?
Motion of denial without prejudice.
Your options are a motion of approval with design review, whatever, a motion with, or a motion of denial without prejudice, or, whatever. Those are your options. Or deferring it to the board, the full board. That's the other option.
I would ask if that's the consideration, Madam Chairman, if we could go in front of the full board as a deferral, I would take that option.
Motion to defer until the full board can hear.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, the motion carries. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
So just to clarify, that's next Tuesday, March 25th. For the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case.
Next, we have case VOA 1661508 with the address of 8 Friendship Road. If the applicant and/or their representative are present, would they please explain to the board?
Anyone on for 8 Friendship Road? Okay,
Madam Chair, I see no raised hands at the moment.
okay, let's keep going.
Case BOA 1675560. With the address of 11 Cleve Street. If the applicant and/or their representative is present, they please explain to the board.
Street, 11 Clive Street. Is anybody on for that?
And Greg. Then we'll move on.
Yep.
To case BOA 1678617 with the address of 62 Patton Street.
Good evening. This is Kyle Hilberg. I'm here as the homeowner for this property.
Great. Can you please feel free to begin?
Sure. So what we're proposing is just finishing an existing basement I can quickly go through and describe the project. So we have an existing basement. If you go to the third slide, you can see the layout of the house on the property. The left side is the layout of the basement. The basement is divided into two halves, one for unit 1, which is my unit, and one for unit 2, which is the other unit. We're proposing to install flooring and put up a few walls to make this a more usable space for ourselves. If you move on to the next slide. I apologize, one more slide. This is the existing house. The next slide is just showing the existing conditions of the unfinished basement. And then the next 2 slides are the floor plan. So this is the current basement. There's just a utility room on one end, and otherwise it's a large open space with wall columns in the middle. The next slide, and thank you for going through the slides, shows what we're proposing. So we're proposing to install a couple walls to create a half bath and a laundry area. And then enclosing a space for an office shown in the middle and a workshop shown on the right-hand side. And this would just be installing stud walls, drywall on the ceiling, insulating the outside and installing a wall, and then installing flooring throughout. The reason that we were denied or refused by the ISD permitting office review was for excessive floor area ratio. If you go to the next slide, the existing lot size is 4,400 square feet. The existing livable area is 2,870, which creates a FAR of 0.65. The allowable by zoning is 0.6. So it already exceeds the allowable zoning. Adding this 500 square feet of finished space in the basement as proposed would increase the floor area ratio to 0.767. But again, I'd like to reiterate that this does not change anything to the exterior of the building and is just finishing the existing basement space. We went through the community process and did not receive any concerns from the community. And we do have a letter of support from our neighbors who are in Unit 2 in the same shared building.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, can I have public testimony? Is ONS on?
I think
I
he-
apologize, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeremy Bembury. My apologies, my mic was muted. I am the Jamaica Plain Community Engagement Specialist for the Office of Neighborhood Services. The applicant has completed the community process, which consisted of an abutters meeting held on January 21st with only one in attendance. No feedback was provided. Next, they presented to JPNC, the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council, on February 5th, where they voted to approve the proposal. We have not received any letters of support or opposition at this time. Thank you for your time, and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services would like to defer to the board for their judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, okay, Madam Chair, I have no raised hands at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
I'll put forward a motion of approval. I think all the work is internal, so it doesn't take anything away from the existing structure.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
chair votes yes, the motion carries. Good luck, sir.
Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.
Next, we have case BOA 1678617 with the address of 62 Patton Street. If the applicant and or their representative are present, they please explain to the board.
That was the,
It's Whitmore.
The next.
26 Whitmore Street.
Hi.
I got you. So that case BOA 168 2689. The address is 26 Whitmore Street. Excuse me.
Madam- That's my colleague, George Moranci. He should be logged on.
I'm here, Ryan.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Stembridge. Thank you, Ryan. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is George Moranci. I'm an attorney with the business address of 350 West Broadway in South Boston. I represent the owners of this property, Attorney Ted Silva and his wife, Jen. I will go out on a limb. This may be the least impactful and most de minimis in terms of zoning relief requested project that certainly I've ever handled. My clients are renovating their home. They're currently performing renovations under a zoning compliant issued ALT project. This application, which resulted in the refusal letter, was an amendment to that ALT, and it was for a small extension of living space, of FAR, into the basement, which consists of converting an existing utility room into a bathroom. This is a single family home. The bathroom would contain a sauna. It results in an FAR violation of 0.01. Maximum FAR here is 0.3. The resultant FAR is 0.31. There probably could have been an architectural change that would have eliminated a few square feet to reduce the size. But my client, being an attorney, did not want anyone to feel as though there was any sleight of hand here, that he was trying to avoid review and scrutiny by ISD and the board. So he instructed his architect and me to carry on because there is also a second cited violation, which is just about as minimal in nature. The Silvas are reconstructing their front porch. They're making it a little bit larger, primarily wider, but it will extend maybe a foot to maybe 2 feet, a little bit closer to the front lot line. The existing porch is non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback, not the building, just that front porch. And in the reconstruction of that porch, they are being cited for that essentially existing front yard setback violation. So that's the relief that is requested: 2 variances for an almost microscopic FAR violation, and then for this very small extension of the porch, not the horizontal extension, the width of it, but just because it approaches about by maybe a foot or a foot and a half closer to the front lot line. And the only other thing I would add, as the board considers this, is I do see that the planning recommendation includes a proviso of design review. I wouldn't presume to, try to convince the board how to or remember how to make a motion on this, but I suspect strongly that even Jeff Hampton would agree that design review is probably not necessary. So I just make that as a friendly suggestion. But with that, I'll pause and take any question.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Madam Chair and board members, Siggy Johnson with the Office of Neighborhood Services. This petitioner completed the community process. Informational flyering regarding the proposal was conducted to abutters in a 300-foot radius, and this flyering solicited 2 letters of support and no other comments to our office. And the proponents presented to the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council, which is in support of this application. With that background, we defer to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and looks like we have no additional raised hands at the moment.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
I'll put forward a motion to approve, and I agree with Mr. Moranci. The changes are de minimis, and I don't see a need for design review.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stembridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
chair votes yes, the motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Shall we return to the other cases that we haven't heard from before we go to rediscussion, Madam Chair, or should we just go to rediscussion?
We can give one more chance to the folks who have not shown up yet.
Okay. Then we'll return to case BOA 16848 79. If the address is 22B to 22 Beacon Street. If the applicant and or their representative are present, they please explain to the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. Daniel Brennan here. My apologies. I was having some issues with the link. This case here before you is a former Dunkin' Donuts space across the street from the State House. Looking to have a new coffee shop take over the space. It's a conditional use. There is a proviso in on the Dunkin' Donuts approval, so it required us to go back before the board. We did complete the community process. No objections. I did notice in the old decision, our hours are slightly different. I think there might have been a typo in the original decision. They said it's 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Our requested hours are 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., likely to be reduced in the evening hours by traffic, but for now, we're hoping for 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the coffee shop.
Understood. And at this time, the proviso is the only issue, that you're not doing any exterior work.
We are doing a sign and awning. We actually have a Beacon Hill Landmarks meeting happening right now as we speak.
Great, thank you. Questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Madam Chair and board members, Siggy Johnson with the Office of Neighborhood Services. This petitioner completed the community process. An informational flyer was distributed to a 300-foot radius around this address, and that flyering solicited no comments to our office. With that background, we defer to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
And Sydney?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Sydney. I'm from Councillor Flynn's office. Councillor Flynn would like to go on record in support based on a good community process and feedback from neighbors. He respectfully requests the proponent to continue to work closely with the community on any quality of life issues during the construction phase. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no additional raised hands at the moment. Oh,
With
I'm
that,
sorry.
may I have-
I'm sorry. No, that was Dan's hand. No,
That's
we're all
Cal,
set. Sorry.
I raised my hand on purpose. I just wanted to clarify that Beacon Hill Coffee Shop LLC is going to be the operating entity, but the name of it is going to be Bon, B-O-N. I didn't know if that factors in the decision, but I did want to put that on record as well.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
I'll put forward a motion. I just have a question for the legal team. Do we need the proviso updating the hours, or can we just approve as is? I don't have any concerns about the hours.
I mean, it's up to you. If you want to approve it as is, you can. If you want to approve it with a proviso, you can. But it's up to you.
I think her question is whether that affects them, like whether the fact that his hours are actually different than posted, like if we approve it without reiterating his hours, is that an issue for him?
Right. Like, I just don't want to have the old hours carry
Right,
forward.
and him having to come back because the hours are wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I understand.
So maybe
Sorry.
Katie, just to be on the safe side, just
keep
restate,
Yeah.
restate his
Okay.
hours then, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, just
I will
make
make a motion for approval with the proviso, with hours, to update the hours allowed from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. Did I have that right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Is
thank
there a
you.
second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
chair votes yes, the motion carries. Good luck, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'll return to case BOA 1661508 with the address of 8 Friendship Road. If the applicant and or their representative are present, they please explain to the board.
Hi, this is Anthony Watford. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I had to go back to the zoning board, I had to make changes to my original plan. I can share with you, I believe.
So you aren't able to share screen, but if you just let Madam Ambassador know what page
Okay.
to scroll to.
Right,
Sure.
that page right there.
All right, perfect.
Originally, this part right here wasn't gonna be there, but according to my contractor, to get the stairs to the attic area, I had to extend further up. I'm not going higher than the roof line. I'm just going up to the roof line.
Okay. Are there
And that's
questions
only
from the
di-
board? It's pretty straightforward. May I have public testimony?
Yes, to me.
Nope, I'm asking if there's public testimony. Is Mr. Bembry on or from ONS or anyone else?
Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm not sure if Jeremy jumped off.
Okay, thank you.
There, it's 8 Friendship Road is on.
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry, that was me speaking to my liaison. He'll be on in 1 second.
okay, thank you. Is there any other raised hands besides ONS?
Yeah, looks like we have no raised hands at the moment.
I'm gonna say, Mr. Newman, this is not controversial, so if your gentleman or if your person is unable to get on in a minute, I can proceed with a vote.
Yes, sorry, Madam Chair. Let me just
Yes,
see if-
I am here.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay,
timing.
here we go.
My apologies for the delay. For 8 Friendship Road, Madam Chair and members of the board, for the record, my name is Jeremy Bembry. I serve as the Community Engagement Specialist for Mattapan. The applicant has completed the community process, which consisted of an abutters meeting held on November 5th. With only one in attendance, no feedback was provided. Next, the proponent presented to Belknap Family Neighborhood Association on October 19th of 2023. With no vote, they remain neutral. Thank you for your time, and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services would like to defer to the board for their judgment at this time.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
May I
you.
have a motion? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second,
Mr. Stenbridge,
yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
chair votes yes, the motion carries.
I thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And going back again to case BOA 1675560 with the address of 11 Cleve Street. If someone is present to represent this case.
I am. My name is Mark Arsenault.
Great. Please state your name and address for the record and proceed.
Absolutely. My name is Mark Arsenault. I live at 10 Connery Crescent in Jamaica Plain, and I'm the project manager, the volunteer project manager for the 11 Clive Street renovation project.
Okay, please please proceed.
Absolutely. Do you have the plans? Yeah, thank you so much. Perfect. So we did go through the community process over the late in the fall. Basically, what we're doing here is we are making accommodations for Marika Rosenbaum and her son Zay, who grew up in this house, to move back home and live in the attic space. So we're trying to convert the attic space into a living space. It's currently partially finished attic, and we want to finish the other half. The dormer request required a variance because the setback from the property line was less than allowed. Currently, there is a dormer on the north side of the house. If you see the existing conditions, I'm not sure if they're shown on here or not. Yes, sorry, back up, right there. These are the existing conditions. That dormer is currently in place. What we're doing is we're building essentially a mirror image of that dormer and joining the two with a elevated space that would allow us to put a bathroom with a shower and a larger closet in the living space up there for Marika and her son. We're not extending any higher than the roof line, and we are actually keeping period appropriate architectural detail to the house. They have other dormers on the south side of the house and also the Clive Street facing side of the house that are the same design. I'm actually not clear on what that roof line is called. I think it might be called a Nantucket dormer, but we're matching that. So we now have that on 3 of the 4 sides of the house.
Great. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Madam Chair and members of the board, for the record, my name is Jeremy Bembury. I am the Jamaica Plain Community Engagement Specialist for the Office of Neighborhood Services. The applicant has completed the community process, which consisted of an abutters meeting held on January 14th, where 3 abutters voiced support and 2 voiced concerns regarding construction, equipment, and debris affecting neighborhood properties, both of which were addressed during the meeting, but the abutters remained concerned. The project then presented to Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council zoning, who voted to approve the proposal. We have never received any letters of opposition or support at this time. Thank you for your time, and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services would like to defer to the board for their judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have no additional raised hands at the moment.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
chair votes yes, the motion carries. Good luck.
Great. Thank you so much for your help. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
With that, we move on to the rediscussion case scheduled for 5 p.m. This is case BOA 168-5231 with the address of 368 to 372 West Broadway. If the applicant and or their representative are present, they please explain to the board.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Stenbridge. Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Ryan Spitz with Adams and Moranci, business address of 168 8th Street, first floor, South Boston. Joining me today is one of the applicants, Jamie Moss of the Clover Clubhouse. By way of background, Clover Clubhouse was founded by 3 board members of the South Boston Moms Club. This proposal will be a space for families in the community to play, socialize, and build a thriving village within small space city living. They intend to have daily classes, open play, space for birthday parties, as well as workspace, classes, and community events for parents to build and maintain the support they need to raise a family in the city. The goal will be to serve as a go-to family community spot that supports both physical and mental health within walking distance for most Southie families. In this sub-district, it is an MFRLS. The use is considered a community use, which requires a conditional use permit. Further, the portion of this space was also non-conforming, which triggers relief for a non-conforming use change. Lastly, we were cited for insufficient parking, as the minimum parking ratio for community center is 1 space per 1,000 square feet, and the site does not offer any parking. However, the site is well serviced by the public transit and is a mere 150 feet away from multiple bus stops and approximately about 0.6 miles away from Broadway Station. It also aesthetically is very similar to the neighboring business as well, of not being able to provide parking. At this point in time, Madam Chair, I'm going to turn it over to you for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Madam Chair and board members, Siggy Johnson with the Office of Neighborhood Services. This petitioner completed the ONS community process. Our office hosted an abutters meeting on January 29th, at which there were numerous speakers in support, 5 speakers in support. No concerns were raised. The St. Vincent's Lower End Neighborhood Association is the active civic group in this area, and they are in non-opposition to the proposal. With that background, we defer to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, my name is Sydney. I'm from Councillor Flynn's office. Councillor Flynn would like to go on record in support based on a good community process and feedback from neighbors. He respectfully requests that the proponent continue to work closely with the community on any quality of life issues during the construction phase. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have no additional raised hands.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
chair votes yes, the motion carries.
Great.
Thank you. All right, have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, folks.